All right, welcome back to another HashrateUp Focus episode. Today, I want to talk to you guys about the Braiins Calculator. HashrateUp, hardware sales, advisory, hosting, and site brokerage. Find new and used ASIC deals through the website and the Telegram channel below. Make smarter decisions with HashrateUp. This is a tool that I think is widely underused and also underappreciated. I, for myself, like to model fairly simply when it comes to Bitcoin mining because there's only certain factors that I can control, right? But what I'm about to show you is a great tool to learn, to go through the numbers in a more detailed way, and has a ton of features. We're not going to be able to cover everything because of the time, but I want to at least show you the basics, and if there's interest, we can delve deeper. So without further ado, let me share my screen and let's have a look at the Braiins Calculator. Everybody can pull up the Braiins Calculator if you want to follow along under learn.braiins.com/en/profitability calculator. There'll be a link, no doubt, in the description that you can click on. So you have a very detailed dashboard here. On the left, you do all your inputs, and on the right side, you can see what the results are over a certain time period with a little dashboard underneath that shows you all the financial indications of your investment decisions or your calculations when it comes to mining, right? So starting at the top, you start with a future projection of 36 months. Now you can go back and look at historical values here, or you can leave it as default 36 and change the months from 24 to 48 or whatever other period you want to have a look at, right? Again, this is highly customizable, and I would encourage everyone interested in mining and finances to play around with this to really see how the numbers add up and shape out and what effects they have on your mining investment. You can also at the top here, very important for me, denominate whether the numbers on the right here are shown in dollars or in Bitcoin terms, right? There are some who want to have more dollars out of their investment when it comes to Bitcoin mining, and some who want to use it as a vehicle to accumulate more BTC. So this is very important to look at as well. All right, so starting at the top, right, this is the Bitcoin price right now. You can set your starting price here. Right now, obviously, we're going through quite a dip, so it might be prudent to put a different number here if you expect Bitcoin to rise or fall when you start your investment. This is your network difficulty right now, something we've covered before. This is the hash rate of your investment that you put in. The consumption of your miners, the total consumption, right? So this would be maybe, 4 S21 Pros roughly, and their consumption, your electricity price or hosting price for most, the block subsidy. This, should stay where we are right now. Your average fees that you expect, likely zero, because they have been zero for the longest time. And here you can see revenue, fees, and downtime. So you can put like fees for your pool, fees for your firmware, and fees for downtime that you might want to put in here and add to your calculation. Again, this is highly, highly detailed, and it counts for a lot of the details that are mostly missed. Let me just say, when it comes to mining investments, the margins are razor thin. So making sure you account for all the costs is highly important, right? Because you don't want to be surprised at the end because you left a factor like the pool fees out of your calculation and you can't figure out why your investment is worse than you thought it should have been. Profit fees, if you want to do a profit share, we'll get to that in a minute. And now for the difficult part, right? Where I like to forecast hash price and just look at different scenarios. Here, you can now change the difficulty increment, right? So what's your expectation about how much will the difficulty go up per year, and the price increment, right? So you can maybe put a 50% here, looking at Bitcoin's CAGR to be very conservative. Again, try to be more conservative than not and surprise yourself to the upside. That's generally been a good approach. Halving difficulty drop, again, super detailed, right? How much is the difficulty going to drop when the halving comes in? This is a very advanced metric. And for each of these, there's also a little explainer here on the side, which I love, that you can read through to make sure that you fully understand what the metrics are that you put in, right? So for the next two examples, we're going to focus on the basic inputs that I've just laid out. But if you want to get even more granular, and we can go down that rabbit hole in another episode, there are advanced options, right? One of which we will have to use, right? CapEx, your miner, how much are you spending? What's your income tax rate, monthly OPEX, hold ratio, how much are you holding to spending, what's your starting cash balance, so many details, right? If you do debt financing, you can put in the interest rates, the loan amounts for your debt, right? If you are looking at your hard-earned Bitcoin and then buying miners with that loan, you can put all the metrics down here and make sure everything is accounted for, right? Buying Bitcoin miners should be simple, safe, and fast. Altair Technology delivers exactly that. Based in the US and shipping directly from St. Louis, Altair eliminates all the shady messaging groups, customs and tariffs issues, and makes sure Bitcoin miners get to you on time. Altair stocks leading commercial ASIC miners, efficient home units, and all the critical parts you need, backed by real inventory, real support, and a team of people that you can rely on and actually mines Bitcoin. Thank you so much, Altair Technology, for supporting the show. And without further ado, let's get back to it. So for our first example, right, let me just share the screen, right? I guess this is a future projection of 36 months. We have 29 months to the halving, so plenty time left to buy a machine today. I've left the Bitcoin price as is, and then I've put in metrics for a MicroBT M60S Plus machine with 206 terahash, 3.5 kilowatts of consumption. My hosting price is 7.5 cents. Block subsidy right now, 3.125. I'm using a pool. I'm paying about 2.5% in fees, pool fees. I'm leaving the stock firmware on, something we'll get to in another episode. I have no profit share, and I'm assuming that the difficulty will go up 20% per year, and the price, Bitcoin price, will go up 50% per year. And I'm assuming, well, I should assume something here. I don't know. Maybe let's put 20% here and see what happens, right? Or let's actually experiment and see. So let's leave this at 0. And then under financing options, I've put a price of $3,000 for the machine as my capex, right? And then on the right here, you can see, right, my US dollar break even is 28 months. I have an internal rate of return of 4.35%. Cost me $106,000 to mine the Bitcoin. Electricity break even is at 11 cents, right? So there's plenty room left between the 7.5 and the 11.1 cents. And then over time, you can see what the financials are doing, right? At the beginning, obviously, where Bitcoin price is right now, we're doing only a little profit, $33. We have a revenue of 224. And there's, then accumulation over time, right? So you can see the profit loss in the first month, obviously, is only at $33. But then over time, you can see it accumulates. And this is a really beautiful way to display your finances. And at first can be a bit daunting. But again, it's well worth jumping into and having a look at to understand mining better, right? There's also a great feature here where you can share your exact inputs with others, right? So if you copy that link and share it with me, then, we can talk about it directly and have a chat. And yeah, what happens here? Now let's have a look, right? This is where the halving is, right? So remember, it's 29 months to the halving. And here you can see in month 29, month 30, we have a monthly profit of $193 because remember, we put that Bitcoin price goes up quicker than the difficulty, right? So it makes sense that our profits go up. And in month 30, we have a monthly revenue of 385, 193 profit. And then in the next month, boom, the halving hits and our monthly profits go to $4.74 and the revenue gets slashed as well. And then from there, it keeps increasing again. As a third example and last example, I want to talk to you about what happens after month 30, right? Now you have a machine that's more than 2 years old. It's in a type 1 facility, something we talked about with Tom at HashBranch recently. Very difficult to say. And now it might be time to deploy the machine into a type 2 facility, right? Where maybe the uptime is slightly lower, where you have to do a profit share, where your power cost is lower as well, right? So this is what you can see on the left here now. All of these numbers, right? They stay the same, but now I've put price increment 50, difficulty increment 20, and the profit fees. I've said 40% of your profits go to the hosting operator, and your electricity price is 4 cents, right? So we explained this before on the mining with solar example, but essentially what this does is it lowers your fixed cost So it lowers that break even, and it adds a variable portion on top, right? So if your revenue is lower, your profits are lower, so therefore you're giving less away in total numbers, if that makes sense. So there's a flexible portion to your hosting tariff, which now means, that flexible portion moves up and down depending on how much money you are making. Obviously, if hash price explodes, you have a very expensive hosting contract. That's the cost for having a very low hosting contract when the revenue is low, which protects your miner's profitability and keeps it online and in a profitable state. Again, lots more to delve into here, but I'm going to stop here. Let me know what you think. This has been the Braiins Calculator. And have a good day, guys. Thank you.